And so I want the people watching or listening to know, if you're going through a breakup or you know that your relationship is past the expiration date and you're making everyone miserable by staying together, get really creative.
Yeah.
Open your mind to the possibilities that everything that you have seen from your family and your parents and your sister and your Aunt Lucy and like all the way everyone else has broken up, you don't have to do it that way. You can write your own rule book.
I'm Rachel, and you're listening to the Owning Your Sexual Self podcast. Hey, real quick. Are you a woman that is looking to connect with yourself, embrace your power, and reclaim your truth? If the answer is yes, then I have the perfect experience for you. If you haven't yet heard, I am hosting my first ever women's retreat in Tampa, Florida in October this year. October 12th through the 15th. You can join me in the beautiful Tampa area. Really great, especially if you're a Michigander, to get away from this winter weather and enjoy some sunshine. And this is specifically for those that are wanting to really honor your journey, embrace your uniqueness, and help you reclaim your confidence. The HER in the HER retreat stands for honor, embrace, and reclaim. And that's what we're doing. Our retreat is going to be a safe space for women to really come together, get that in-person camaraderie with each other, that womanhood, that sisterhood, share your stories, and grow in a supportive community. This is going to be a sensual girls weekend. I have so many fun, juicy activities planned for us. You are going to learn more about your sensuality, and you're going to feel safe and supported to be able to connect deeper with your woman within and really let her unleash on this weekend and thereafter. So whether you're seeking something that is for healing, personal growth, or simply just break from your everyday routine, the HER retreat has literally something for everyone. So take this as an opportunity to really prioritize your self-care and invest in your own well-being. So don't miss out. We have just a few spots left for this retreat. So you can visit the link in the bio of this show notes. If you follow me on Instagram, you can go to my link in bio there. You could DM me if you want the link, or if you have any other questions. I'd also love to set up a Zoom consultation with you to see if there's any other questions that I can go over with you, or any other answers that I can provide to you to make this experience and this offer a fuck yes for you. So check out those links. I would love, love, love to have you there with me. And again, any questions that you have, please reach out. So continue enjoying this show. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And I hope to see you in Tampa. What's up, everyone? Welcome back for another amazing episode, obviously, of Owning Your Sexual Self. We have Jennifer Ruscin back on the show today. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining.
Hey, thanks for having me. I always love being here.
Yes. I know on our last conversation, we talked about, you had said the word conscious uncoupling, or the words rather.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, that like piqued my curiosity, and I remember my ears like, oh, I've never heard it be phrased that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so ever since then, I was like, we need to have her on the show for sure. So
I'm excited. Yeah. The first time I think we talked about opening relationships.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now this is like, when you open, sometimes you have to close or walk away, and not just in an open relationship, but in any relationship. And I always say conscious uncoupling can be like from your boss, from a coworker, from a best friend. I'm in a container right now where a lady's like, I need to break up with my best friend. And I've been best friends for like a decade. That's fucking hard. So let's talk about it today.
Yeah. And so we just went through a new moon. Yesterday was a new moon in Leo, and also Venus, I believe it is in retrograde. And so when I was reading up on this information, it's like the energy that we're feeling in the world right now in astrology is really like stirring up some relationship stuff. And it even said that in there, that could be your relationship with yourself, with your partner, friendships, boss, like things like that. So yeah, when you were just speaking of that, I'm like, man, what a great time for us to be recording about this because yeah, it's universally aligned, I feel right now.
I think so too. I go to this business where I get facials and I get massages and they do a bunch of woo shit. They do like Reiki and they do sound bowls and things that you're into too. If
Mm-hmm.
you lived here in Arkansas with me, you and I would be going
Yeah, I'm
together.
like, come to Michigan, please.
I mean, I'm in Arkansas, like we're super conservative, but I found this magical place and it's like 7 minutes from my house. And the massage therapist was telling me, on a global consciousness level, how we all kind of go through the same things at the same time. And it's kind of weird as humans that so she said, right now, everyone is either going through a relationship crisis or a financial crisis or a double doozy. And every single person in my life that I look at, it's one or the other, or it's both. And I know like for me lately, it has been some relationship stuff that's kind of gone up and down. Definitely financial stuff up and down. Like I'm recreating myself and my business. And so I know that our listeners or viewers, wherever you're going to put this, they're probably going through the same ups and downs and roller coasters and like, when is this going to stop? And I'm not an astrologist, so I don't know when the pain is going to go away, but maybe we can give you some tools today to make the relationship side or even the breaking up of whomever in your life you need to kind of separate yourself from a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And again, with this idea of conscious uncoupling. So consciously breaking up with, again, whoever that is, whether it be romantic or not. And you have a bit of a story around this. So I'd love to hear, what your experience was with this.
Okay. So I have consciously broken up with 2 husbands. The first one is the father of my children. We were together for 10 years, all throughout my 20s. And towards the end of my 20s, I do this like life review at the end of every decade of my life. And I'm literally months away from turning 40. So I'm doing it again right now. And at the end of every 10 years, like my whole life gets flipped upside down and I kind of like shake out all the pieces that don't work. And then I reassemble. So I'm reassembling my life right now. And in my 20s, I was reassembling then again. And I looked at my life and I was like, I don't want this for the next 10 years. I don't want the same husband. I don't want the same house. Like I can't get rid of my kids. I love my kids. We'll take them into my 30s. And so my ex and I finally broke up. And finally I left him 3 different times. It was one of those weird like soul connections where you just keep getting remagnetized back to, it's like the lesson's not finished, And at the end of that decade, I was like, oh, thank God. Okay. I can't do this anymore. I'm done. And so what did conscious uncoupling look like for us? It looked like being kind when we wanted to be mean. It meant sharing an attorney, and I'm using air quotes if you aren't watching this because you can't legally share an attorney, but one person can pay for the attorney and it then be legally represented and you can split the cost of it. So we did that. I didn't want to have my attorney versus his attorney and who's going to get the best for who and who's going to drag the other person through the dirt. Like I just didn't want that energy. And stress. It also looked like creating a visitation plan that worked for us. So my kids at the time were 1.5 and 3.5. I'm talking barely out of diapers and barely not breastfeeding anymore, like tiny little children. And my ex looked at me and he was like, I can't bear the thought of not seeing these kids for a week. Like, can we please do something different? And so I was like, yeah. And he was like, how do you feel about like 2 days on, 2 days off every other weekend? And I was like, great, let's do it. We've done it for 15 years. It has worked beautifully. And it's interesting as they've gotten older, I still kind of feel that like they're a little bit more independent and we've revisited it once or twice. Like, should we move to every other week just to have some consistency for the kids? And my ex is like, nope, I want to see him every 2 days. Okay, great, fine. Yeah. So the great thing about this visitation schedule is every 2 days, like I'm a free woman. I have no kids. So if you're, like I'm married or I'm partnered right now, it's like, we're like singles, like we just go mingle and do things and, and then every other weekend we don't have kids. So it's like a full-time built-in babysitter. And then I'd say like the last thing that we did differently was both of us owned pretty successful businesses and he could have owed me alimony. In the state of Arkansas, there is alimony. And it was like I didn't even think about it. I mean, I was like so fiercely independent and did not need his money to survive and would have been offended if I needed that. So I didn't take anything. And I just said, here, look, why don't we, whatever we came into the marriage with, we came out with, including debt. So if you came in with debt, that's your debt to take out. If you brought your favorite grandma's, sofa or like bookcase, then you want to take that with you. Like, take what's meaningful. I left almost all the furniture. I just was like, I don't care. I want to rebuild my life anyway, which gave me an opportunity to kind of like go thrifting and find things that felt good for me, and like buy this dinnerware set at Walmart that felt more aligned with my vibe than his. And so I created my own little apartment full of things that mattered to me and felt aligned with me. And it was like this whole shift in energy. Okay, I'll stop here if you have any questions.
How did you know, and how did you fight through those emotions, like the being kind when you wanted to be mean? How did you regulate through that?
And it was tough. Especially because he had a really hard time with it. He didn't want to be divorced.
Mm.
And so I remember a few times him pounding on my door, and that scaring me. Or one time I was trying to shut the door and he was trying to shove himself inside. Or one time, or several times, I guess this happened, he would call me and start yelling at me over the phone. And I would just calmly say, I'm no longer accepting this behavior. And if you want to speak to me that way, I'll get an attorney and you can talk to them. Like, I'm just not playing this game anymore. And so I think it was this point where the last few years of our marriage was so tumultuous that every time he did anything, I'd be like, if he does that again, I'm leaving.
Mm.
I think a lot of people in relationships that are well past the expiration date, they keep thinking like, if they do that one more time, I'm leaving. If they cheat on me again, if they say this thing again, if they throw that thing again, if they spend all the money in the bank account again, I'm leaving, right? And then finally, eventually you get to the point where you want to leave. But I got to this point with him once I had left that I was just like, I don't give a fuck anymore. And that like dead feeling inside, where you're just like, I'm so beat down. I just don't care. And I don't want anything to do with you anymore. And so I just started kind of putting this protective layer and bubble around me. And it was like, you don't get to make me feel like I'm walking on eggshells anymore. You don't get to make me feel this disruption in my nervous system. And it took 8 years, truthfully, to rebuild that feeling of safety in my body and to break down that masculine energy that I had like so tightly clung to because it wasn't safe to be in my feminine. It wasn't safe to allow. I was always protecting me or the kids or whoever.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm just going to say like any sort of breakup is going to be hard. It's going to be tough, and
Yeah.
I would guess, and I'm sure you agree, like doing it this way, doing it consciously and calmly and civilly, right? No matter what that person is doing on the other side, like taking ownership for your own shit throughout is gonna make it, yeah, that experience all that more easier. And I know exactly, I think back to past relationships too, that dead feeling, like you're with somebody for so long and then it's one day, and I tell people this all the time, like one day the switch is gonna flip. And until that happens, you continue to make those empty threats, and the next time, the next time, the next time. But yeah, one day.
Yeah. And this is a good example of the one I just told you, because I've done this twice, right?
Mm-hmm.
My first one, and being with such an aggressive person, like my husband was very aggressive. This is a great example of how you can stand firm and you're going to still be kind and not be a bitch, or not be a whatever dudes are, like not be a jerk. Even when they are not presenting in a way that's appropriate for them to receive kindness.
Mm-hmm.
And I just chose to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Fast forward to my second husband and our breakup. And if you listen to our first podcast together, you and I discussed that, where we opened the relationship up and then lots of things changed. And within like 90 days, we were divorced.
Mm-hmm.
This was such a different breakup. And I think for many ways, many reasons, when I left my first husband, my second, I chose a man who he was softer. His energy was softer. He had more feminine. It felt safe to be with him. I never felt like I wasn't safe. And so you can just feel my energy change, can't you?
Mm-hmm.
I got to relax into that. And so as we were both realizing that this container of marriage that we had created had, I said it before, like reached the expiration date, because I wanted something different than he did. And while we still loved each other and we loved what we'd created together, it no longer was suiting either one of us. I wanted exploration, sexual exploration. I wanted adventure in my life. I wanted to go travel. I wanted to do like go, 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 learn, 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 learn. And he was like, I'm just super content. Like, I just am sitting in this contentness and I don't need all that. I don't want that. And you asked me about resources. If you have read Conscious Uncoupling by Catherine Woodward Thomas, she actually has one or two couples in this book with the same story as my story with my ex-husband, Derek.
Wow.
He, or, usually he's the one she was talking about her own relationship with her ex. He was the one just super content with life. And she was like constantly moving forward, constantly learning, constantly changing. And he was just like, I didn't sign up for this. Like, I just want us to be, So when we uncoupled, I got to take the karma, I think, from my first relationship. And remember when I said that my ex-husband could have paid me alimony? I could have paid a shit ton of alimony to my second ex. And he was so grateful for the life that I had paid for and provided and created for him to get to live for 8 years. Because I kind of plucked him out of this very simple living into like extravagance and let's go see the world and eat all the food and drive fancy cars. And he was so grateful for the experience. And thankfully, my therapist is the one that like planted these seeds in him before he asked for it, the alimony. But he ended up not asking me for it. We shared a lawyer again. This time it was me that paid for the lawyer or secured one. And I was like, let's do this, as cheap as we can. We're not fighting. There's no children involved. There's really no assets. We had a house that I had paid 100% of the payments on, but it was in his name. Like I did some tricky business stuff to be able to get that to work. But I'm just saying, like, I could have been so fucked on this second one. I could have lost so much money. I could have been hateful for years of having to pay alimony to this guy that I didn't even live with anymore. While I'm in my new relationship, I could have lost my house. Like so many things could have happened. But instead, because I came at it with so much love and so much respect, and like, how can I take care of you? And like, how can we get you a new apartment? And do you need a new sofa? And like, what do you want to take from the house? And I'll just buy new stuff. It'll be fine. Like really making sure that he felt secure in his like being sent back off into the world. And I don't mean like I made him leave. He chose to leave, but we did it together to make sure that he was okay. It was just such a beautiful experience. And I thought after that, like, I want to talk about this. I want to share that this is possible because the world tells us the complete opposite. Hate your ex, be ugly to your ex, take every penny you can, ruin them. And like, I understand that some people maybe like that is like they deserve that, but I think the majority of us are just trying to do the best that we can. And so why not be graceful and kind when you exit a relationship?
Yeah, have compassion for that other person. And yourself in many ways. Absolutely. Yeah. And you've had two very different experiences in why it came to the point of breaking up or of parting ways. And yeah, your evidence that this can work, whether it's a nasty, like hateful situation or not, just again by taking ownership for your own stuff. Yeah. And what other things would you say were helpful for you during that time, like support system or any sort of self-care? Yeah, what works for you?
Yeah, for sure. I would say self-care if you can and you can afford it. I actually did all this without a support system. So both times. What I have always done in life is just kind of put blinders, like a horse, and they wear these blinders and they like don't look at anybody else because they can't see. So I've kind of lived my life in that way. And I've looked at each circumstance and I'm like, how should I approach this in a way that's best for me? So we talked about my two ways of uncoupling. Now that I'm working with clients in this space, I believe we can get really creative. So some things that lately I've been helping clients with are that point where you have to you break up and then what? Like, do they move out? Do you move out? Does anyone have to move out? Do we actually even have to get divorced? So I get really creative. I'm like, let's talk about finances. Let's talk about kids and how many more years at home do they have? And let's talk about your relationship with this other person. Like, if we just move them into the guest room and you continue to be a family living under the same house, this economy is fucking hard. Like, having two people to help pay the mortgage is like really helpful. So what if we looked at this in a really creative way? With one client that I had, I was like, let's just have these little mini conversations that, I can help prep you for you to have with your partner, to even tell them, like, I don't want to be with you anymore romantically. I am not sexually available to be with you in that way ever again, but I'm happy to co-parent with you, or I'm happy to pay the mortgage with you. I'm happy to like be in your life. And so I helped her form these little micro conversations that eventually got him out of the bedroom and into the one down the hall, and had to have the conversation with their children, like, mommy and daddy are just no longer, romantically involved. We're more like roommates and friends, and we're going to continue to raise you until you go off to college together. Like, we're still a family. And then since then, I've had several friends come into my life where they're living that now. And the ex still lives there, and like their parents still get to have both. And that's an interesting situation. And I know it doesn't work for everybody. I think it can work if you want it to work. And if you don't, that's fine too. I've seen other cool things, like there's a family home, and then each partner, each like husband, wife, or spouses or whatever, they go have either one apartment that they share and they just trade off when they have kids, or they each have their own little mini apartments. And then there's the family home. And so the kids always have stability. There's just so many ways to do this. And so I want the people watching or listening to know, if you're going through a breakup, or you know that your relationship is past the expiration date and you're making everyone miserable by staying together, get really creative.
Yeah.
Open your mind to the possibilities that everything that you have seen from your family and your parents and your sister and your Aunt Lucy, and like all the way everyone else has broken up, you don't have to do it that way. Like, you can write your own rule book.
Yeah. That is the conversation now that I'm having with a couple that I'm working with, that I'm helping consciously uncouple. And very, very unique situation. I won't get into too much detail on here for privacy reasons, but they're toying around with that thought of how can we still live together and cohabitate. And especially when that anger, irritation, like that I'm dead, there's nothing else here, romantically, just for one of the partners, but it's still there for the other one. How does that look? And so I'm curious with instances where you've seen that play out, if the person is trying to move on romantically and they want to then bring somebody back home, or they want to go out with somebody, what then does that look like?
Yeah, it becomes a very different situation.
Yeah.
I'm in an open relationship. And so most of my clients are swingers or polyamorous or whatever, monogamish. And so I have very similar conversations with them when they're like, I want to bring my new partner home, or I want to introduce them to the kids. I have one friend who their children know both sets of both partners, and they both come spend the night with the other person. Like, there's a whole thing going on there, and they're about total transparency. So I think total transparency is an option. It's probably not going to be most people's favorite option. So in that case, what I would say when it comes to dating is you just let people know up front, my house is not available to meet in. We can split a hotel room or an Airbnb. We could meet on the weekends and get an Airbnb, because I think some of them have like 2-day minimums. Yeah. Or you just know, I have to date someone that's single and has their own place. Yeah. Which again, in the economy is getting harder and harder, because now there's roommates and there's all these things happening, right? But I think you just have to be very upfront with it. It's kind of like when you still live with your mom and you're an adult, like you're not going to take your girlfriend home with you, right? So you just say it up front when you meet people, like, hey, here's my situation. It's a little bit complicated, but I co-raised the children with my ex partner. We live in the same house together. We are no longer sexually, available to each other. We're no longer, in that way. We're friends raising kids together. And my house is not available for us to meet, but here's ways that I can get creative.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm just thinking, if I heard that, if somebody told me that, I'd be like, yeah, right. Because how society has set us up to believe that it does need to be like this nasty breakup thing. You shouldn't talk to your ex, shouldn't have a relationship with them, should definitely not be living with them. That's that. I don't know. That would make me.
But then there's two ways to that, right? Like there's one, it's like, okay, do I want to date people that don't fully trust and believe that there's a new way to live? Like there's another additional way. So like you want to find people that are really flexible, right? Another option could be if you're in a decent relationship with your ex, and they're willing to help you on your dating journey. You could say, like, if you'd like to have a conversation with, her or him, with my partner or ex-partner, the three of us could grab drinks or whatever so you can meet them so that you know that I'm fully in integrity in my dating you.
Yeah, I bet.
There's so many ways to do this.
I know. There really is. There certainly is. Yeah, this has been so far just a refreshing take on this. I appreciate this conversation so far. Yeah, what else? What did we not cover? Because I feel like I want to ask what are the benefits, but I feel that's pretty straightforward. Oh, I do remember what I wanted to ask. When you've gone through these situations and you've had friends or whoever in your ear kind of telling you to do things differently or to take, the nastier route or whatnot, how did you stick through that? You talked about just having your blinders on and whatnot, but that still, I'm going to assume, played some sort of effect if that happened for you.
Yeah, I think for me, in all ways of my life, I stand firm. Like, this is what I'm doing. This is where the business is going. This is where the kids are going to school. This is what I'm doing with my partner. And I'm in an open relationship. Like, I'm already navigating the waves of all of everyone else's expectations on me and what they think I should do and shouldn't do. And so I've kind of always been like this. And so I would say, when you stand firm in who you are in the world and you just declare, this is what we're doing, typically people are just okay with that, right? They're like, okay, she's got her shit together. She doesn't need my opinion, right? But if someone else was to come to say, hey, I really think you're doing this wrong. And, my lawyer told me that you're just going to get raked across the coals. Like, I think of all the little phrases people say. And I would just say, I would think, one, obviously they're projecting their experience onto me. And two, I've just decided to choose something that's different and nicer and calm. Like, I think you said, like, what's the downside or what's the benefit to consciously uncoupling? I would say, like, if you don't consciously uncouple, you're looking at potential bankruptcy, losing half your 401k, having to sell your house, having to sell your boat, like right now I have a client who needs to separate. And so I've been trying to get her to do it lovingly and calmly. And she just keeps freaking out. She's like, but I don't want to lose my house. In the economy now, I'm going to have half the size house that I have now. And he's going to get half the equity. I'm going to lose my boat. I'm going to lose my 401k. And I'm like, I get it. So just calm down.
Right.
You don't even have to be divorced. Get the guy a freaking apartment. Help him pay for it if you need to get him out. If you really feel like you need to get him out of the house, you don't have to get divorced.
Yeah.
Now your ex might be like, I don't want to live like this. I want to be divorced from you. And then you can't really do anything about it. But I would say if you act ugly, you're going to lose more. You have more at risk. When I got divorced this second time, because there were no kids involved, my total divorce cost $2,000.
Wow.
He paid $1,000. I paid $1,000. We were divorced in 30 days.
Yeah.
It was the calmest, most wonderful experience ever. And that was it. Yeah. It cost less than the wedding.
That's incredible. And and of course I want to validate, like, every state is different when it comes to divorce. And some states are like, sorry, still got to stay together for 90 days. And it's just like, bullshit. But, so I want to ask too, so on the other side of us, your second husband, who, when you brought up the idea of parting ways, he didn't want that divorce. So how, if you're able to speak kind of from the other side of the conscious uncoupling, like, what if somebody's listening that's them, like they aren't wanting this, they're wanting to stay in the relationship, and it's the other person that is like done, what advice would you give to them or suggestions?
Great question. So I would say he didn't want to be divorced because, like, the church told him and his mother told him you should never get divorced. Not that he wanted to stay with me, right? Like, he knew what I wanted from life and what he wanted from life was not the same. And it was beginning to rub him enough that it was uncomfortable. He was like, I want a vanilla girl. Like, you're not vanilla enough. And so I can imagine that the decision for him to leave was incredibly difficult. I mean, he was leaving wealth, right? An amazing house and super nice brand new Cadillac, like love from me, 2 children that he helped raise for 8 years, a dog he adored. Like, he gave all of that up for a more comfortable existence. And so I think that's a unique situation as well. So for the person that's listening or watching this, that you just don't want to, like, your person's just ready to go out the door and there's nothing you can do about it and you're still holding on and you love them, I guess I want to acknowledge you and your heartbreak, because that's a really, really fucking hard position to be in. And I don't wish that on anybody. And I would say we can't force anyone to love us. Yeah. We can't force anyone to stay with us, whether you're monogamous or you're open. Like, there is no guarantee that your person wants to be with you forever. And so I try to look at relationships as chapters in books. And the chapter 1 for me was, a verbally abusive relationship that was walking on eggshells, that was, not fun to live in. And I had 2 beautiful kids, and I was brave enough and strong enough at the 10th year to leave. That was chapter 1. Chapter 2 was this healing journey for me that provided so much safety and regulation of my nervous system, and my kids feeling safe to learn how to be themselves too as they've grown older, and like love and family. He had the most wonderful family that I walked, away from, and I'm so sad to lose them. But that was chapter 2. And now I'm in chapter 3, and I'm partnered to a man named Scott, and he has this gorgeous, beautiful bulldog. And I'm feeling love and having the most amazing sex and like most amazing up-leveled communication with a conscious man that I've ever experienced. And if I didn't say bye to marriage number 1 and marriage number 2, I never would have reached partnership number 3. That is like everything I always wanted in a relationship. And so, do I want us to be together forever? Yeah. Like, and if Scott decides or I decide, like, it's just not no longer working for me, it's like it's served its purpose, I will lovingly also tell him bye and welcome in whatever is next. And so, again, back to that feeling of pain and hardness, like when your partner wants to leave you and you don't want them to leave. I guess I would challenge you to look at this as the next chapter in your book. And the person, if you're kind to them, they don't have to be out of your life forever. My second husband, we never had any kids, still comes to the kids' baseball games, still buys them stuff for their birthdays, still comes and hangs out and eats pizza with them. Like, you can have a totally different kind of life than what you've seen around you. Just create it.
Yeah. Mic drop. And on that note, again, thank you so much for coming on the show today. And clearly, you're an incredible resource for people that are in any sort of open, monogamous, poly relationship, and especially for the conscious uncoupling, because you've lived it, you have experience with it. So, if anyone is wanting to get in contact with you, please tell us your socials, all your things, your podcast too, which is a great resource.
Yeah. And I'm sure you'll put the link below. Absolutely. I'm JenniferKaylaRuscin.com, and my coaching link is on there and all the things. And we gave the podcast a name, Rachel. Have you seen it? It's called The Open Bedroom. I'm super excited about it because it is a podcast on open relationships and all the navigating of that. And I weave in conscious uncoupling within it as well. But it's The Open Bedroom on every social platform. And then my website is my full name, JenniferKaylaRuscin.com.
Yes, we'll make sure to link all of the things. Thank you so much. This was such a great conversation today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on again.
Thank you so much for listening to today's show. If you loved it, be sure to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And if you really fucking loved it, make sure to tag me on social media at @TheRachelMain. I'll see you next week.